Evening, I'm Mark Chapman. Welcome to 5 Live Cricket T20. Very much the focus at the moment. The men's T20 World Cup is less than a fortnight away. They start a pre-tournament series against Pakistan this week. The women have just beaten Pakistan 3-0 in their T20 series. Their World Cup is in October. So over the next hour, we'll look at both teams really, assess where they're both at, preview the playoff stage. We've eventually, after about 3 years, got to the playoffs of the IPL, and hear from the Scotland player who gave up her job as a vet and will be heading to the Women's World Cup later this year. 3 England cricketers with us in Phil Tufnell, Georgia Elwys and Sam Billings. You are still an England cricketer, Phil. You don't have to chuckle at that.
Well, no, thank you very much. Evening all. How are you?
I still value your international experience in all of this.
Well, thank you very much indeed. No, looking forward to the T20. Looking forward to it.
I mean, I know I'm joking about the IPL, but it does feel like it has gone on, doesn't it, Sam? I mean, there's a lot to talk about with the IPL, but goodness me, it feels like it's gone on for a long time.
Yeah, it must feel like it for the players as well. Obviously, the expansion to the 2 extra teams has made sure it's gone on for even longer. But some amazing games. But like you said, it feels like it's last year.
And there's an awful lot to get into with the women as well, isn't there, Georgia? They're at a very interesting stage with their World Cup on the horizon in October.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we touched on it then. They've just beaten Pakistan, but they're expected to beat that Pakistan side. So they've got tougher opponents in New Zealand later in the summer and building up towards, like you said, the World Cup in Bangladesh.
So we'll talk about the women in a little while. The men play Pakistan in a 4-match series. So that starts on Wednesday at Headingley. And then the T20 World Cup is in the Caribbean and the USA. Do you think, I mean, look, everybody knows what the Caribbean will be like and can be like, and there's been plenty of international cricket there. Does the USA add an element of an exciting unknown, do you think, Georgia?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very exciting to go there for the first time. We've seen that cricket is just about breaking out in the USA, and they're just sort of getting on board with it. But we don't really know what the pitches are going to play like. And I think the added dimension of the travel in between as well, going backwards and forwards, I think set to be really exciting. Do you think,
I mean, we live in an era, don't we, Sam, where no stone is unturned for any international athlete. But the element of the unknown there means that there are going to be things that you can't plan for. Do you not think?
Yeah, slightly. I think nowadays, with obviously all the drop-in pitches all around the world, the pitches do tend to play pretty similar. As you alluded to, I'm really excited to see how the US really lap cricket up. The MLC was obviously played there last year, the first time that was really rolled out. So there is a bit of understanding around how the pitches will play and the interest level as well. I think the India versus Pakistan game that's obviously going to be in New York, all eyes will be on that. And I think it's sold out within 14 minutes or something ridiculous like that. So just amazing, and hopefully cricket can go from strength to strength in the US.
I mean, some people may consider this hyperbole, I don't know, but I do, honestly, that game in New York, Phil, could change the face of cricket in America. I mean, it could completely change the face of the sport.
Yes, it can do. I'm going to be interested to see, as you say, I think a lot of the games have been sold out. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the sort of hardcore American takes to it, instead of sort of just like sort of expats and people like that coming along to the grounds and everything. And I think that's what they've got to be mindful about, is that they've got to try and convince that audience to want to try and pick up the game. So it's just going to be interesting to see, and it's just interesting, just to see cricket in America. Why not? What did they used to say? If you can crack America, you've pretty much sort of done everything. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays.
The thing is, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, Phil.
I mean. You know what I was trying to say.
I do, yeah. Don't ever try and be a lyricist, will you?
No,
it didn't really flow as much, that one.
No, it didn't. But going to be interested to see how it all takes place. But you can be sure that it will be big and it will be glitzy, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of explosions and things.
Well, they will do their very best, won't they,
Yeah,
Georgia,
absolutely.
to manufacture as best they can when sport can be unpredictable. A big hitting, plenty of runs, sixes here, there, and everywhere. That is what they will want, in particular from that game in New York, to get it. To probably get it as baseball-esque as they possibly can. They're not going to want, 120 for 7, and but they're not. Even though a low-scoring game can be a good game.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think a lot of Americans that I speak to, and you talk to them about cricket, they're like, "Why is it like baseball?" So I suppose that's what they're expecting. They're expecting the ball to be hit out the park, and that's what we want as cricket fans. I've just read actually today that the pitches are coming in from Adelaide, aren't they? Some of them are being dropped in from Adelaide, so you'd expect them to be good. And yeah, set to be a cracking tournament. Hope we can fill the stadiums over there as well, and get more people interested in cricket over in America.
Yeah, well, one thing you can be sure of, Chappers, they're going to be small boundaries. It's as simple as that. They're going to be tiny little boundaries in the States, as well as they're going to be in the West Indies. I mean, they always are in the West Indies, aren't they? For T20 cricket. But they've got to be careful that it's not just sort of like plinking it over there. But you're right. I think there's going to be lots of sixes and fours.
Before we come on to the England men, then just to find out, just on drop-in pitches, Sam, a drop-in pitch is fairly similar wherever they are.
22 yards, mate.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that touch of expertise, Philip. Thank you very much.
No, they can obviously, depending on how they're laid, where they're laid, and the climate, of course. And then it does come down to an element of the groundsman as well. But realistically, they're going to be very similar to most of the places that you play on. They're decent wickets. They can get a bit dry, over dry, and a bit slower side. But yeah, I think more or less they've kind of worked it out now. Every single place, there's so many different locations that you have to play. So just going back to the baseball analogy, I think the average home run in a baseball game is 1 home run. So we're going to do better than that, surely. So I mean, there's an average of 25 boundaries a game per innings or something. So, I mean, I'm of course biased, but I'm backing cricket to overtake baseball in the States.
Yeah, and one thing about, I've been to a game of baseball, it took hours. You know what I mean? They're saying that all cricket's a bit long. I can remember going to watch a game of baseball, and it was just, I got through about
three or four hours?
I think it could have been even a bit longer. And you're right, Sam. I didn't really see too much happen, actually.
No, I agree. And look, I think the US are starting to obviously broaden their own sports. They're traveling over to Europe with the NFL and everything. And Formula One over the last kind of 3-4 years has really gone massive. So I think there is a little bit of an appetite into kind of the world of sport outside of the US now.
I can imagine if there are baseball fans listening to this, they might be going, Phil, you did play Test cricket.
That's nearly a week. That lasted nearly a week.
Right.
Drew.
Drew, yeah, exactly. Right, England men's squad then for this T20, for the T20 World Cup. Butler, Moeen Ali, Jofra Archer, Johnny Bairstow, Harry Brooks, Sam Curran, Ben Duckett, Tom Hartley, Will Jacks, Chris Jordan, Liam Livingstone, Adil Rashid, Phil Salt, Reece Topley, Mark Wood. 8 of the 11 who started the 2022 final are in the squad. Remember, defending champions as well. So when you take the names and also that experience, do you look at it, Georgia, and think, that's a good balance, that between the next generation coming through, but the experience of the sort of current generation?
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to write down an 11 that I'd go with in the first game. It's pretty tough. I think there is, like you said, a really nice mix there, and we've got players who are in really good form coming off the back of centuries in the IPL, and some who now have got almost use this Pakistan series to really stake a claim to get into that first 11. I think it's a big series for someone like Liam Livingstone, who has been out injured over the last couple of weeks, and will want to go into there, try and hit some form, and then hit the ground running in the World Cup.
Do you think on the bigger picture of just selecting an 11, Sam, that whatever 11 anybody came up with, as long as there was a fair balance to it, it'd be difficult to argue with? I mean, you could make a case, which is probably a good thing, really, but you could make a case for every single member of this squad being in the starting 11.
Yeah, I suppose to an extent. I
depending on what you want.
Yeah, of course. It's a very strong squad. You've got, like you said, all bases covered. I think Ben Duckett will be obviously the reserve batter. He will start out to the side and will cover those kind of slots of 3, 4 and 5. Tom Hartley, again, backup spinner. And probably Chris Jordan is arguably cover for Jofra Archer. They're the kind of three that I see as probably the next ones in. And then Moeen Ali and Liam Livingstone probably battling it out for that number 6 spot, and of course another bowling option. But interestingly, I think Phil Salt, Will Jacks have really cemented their spots at 1 and 3 in the side. I mean, electric form in the IPL. I played with Jacks obviously over the last 3 years, and you saw the quality for a long period of time, but the consistency and the intent that he's showing now, it really is world class. So it's a very exciting, as it always is, a very exciting batting lineup. And the bowling, as long as people stay fit, that's always the biggest question. The bowling looks pretty strong as well.
And as Sam got the Invincibles in there, I'll just say from the originals' point of view, Salty's world class as well. Go on. Phil, how do you see it?
Yeah, well, no, very much the same. I think that we've got 3 keepers there. Who's going to keep? You probably think. I mean, Sam might shed a bit of light on that, but you probably think Joss is going to keep the wicket and captain, and then the likes, as you say, Salt and Bairstow in that middle order. But it does. I might get in trouble here a little bit. It just feels a little bit sort of bits and piecery, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? I think
what the squad.
Well, no, just sort of like trying to cram them all in instead of them just sort of like standing out and saying, I'm your man at 5, I'm your best bowler at the death. You know what I mean? It all just feels a little bit, can we squeeze this bloke in, at the expense of someone else, instead of it just being absolutely like, you see that Australia side, and they sort of like, no, is this bloke, is that bloke? When, I just feel that they could be a little bit more sort of like, people really cemented their place there. Like you said, Chappers, you know what I mean? You could pick any team there and it would, there'd be reasons for it.
But I suppose that's, if you're trying to evolve a team, and I know maybe you're not wanting to evolve a team in a World Cup, but the way international cricket is at the moment, with so much going on here, there, and everywhere, plus the franchise tournaments, something's always going to be evolving somewhere, because it feels like things come around so quickly.
I get it.
You can see why some of them aren't yet fully established, can't you?
No, yes, as you're saying, you were mentioning about experience, and what have you, and some of the guys, the younger guys as well. It's just that I think that batting lineup can stand up with probably the best in the world of any country. I just feel that bowling lineup is just, I'm not quite sure about it. Okay. I think that's where England need to work on it.
Just before I get on to the bowlers then, just back to the batters. We joke about how long the IPL has taken, but the amount of experience that Jacks and Salt in particular, Georgia, have got in the IPL, particularly this season. But you've still got Butler, who's got 2 centuries for Rajasthan. in this tournament, Bairstow's got a century for Punjab as well. They are a group who have played a lot of T20 cricket this winter. spring.
Yeah, they are, and they're in form as well. And I think that's a really important thing to say going into a tournament that big. I think there was a moment where Phil Salt was scoring loads of runs and Bairstow wasn't scoring any, and you think all of a sudden Bairstow's then comes up with a century, and they're all putting pressure on each other to be better, to keep scoring runs. And that the century that Will Jacks got was phenomenal. And I think it just he's training with Virat Kohli every day, so he's they're getting good sighters of the other players all over the world as well, internationals that they're going to be facing, and they're just getting better and better every day. They're learning their skills over in arguably one of the toughest conditions to do it in, and they're just, it's incredible. They're incredible athletes, but the skill there as well.
You were going to come in, Sam. It looked like you were about to come in.
Yeah. Just looking down at my list here, I think the top 5, in my opinion, picks itself, really.
Go on, then. Let's have them, Sam. Let's have them.
Well, Salt and Butler open the batting. Will Jacks at 3. Johnny Bairstow at 4. Harry Brook at 5. Harry Brook's superstar, can bat anywhere. And if I'm planning as an opposition captain against that, obviously all 5 of them are right-handers. So the pitches in the West Indies that people probably don't expect at home, they do spin a lot. And so that's going to be an element of everyone they come up against is realising, left arm spin, leg spin are going to play a huge part against that and try and expose that top order. And then obviously I think it's Liam Livingstone, Moeen Ali, straight shootout for that number 6 spot, if I'm honest.
They are, aren't they, Sam, playing international level cricket without wearing an international shirt at the moment? I mean, that's what they are doing in this tournament.
In the IPL? Yeah, absolutely. It's the leading competition in the world. It really is phenomenal, and the pressure that you are under in the IPL is as much as any other cricket you play around the world. There's no hiding place. You get exposed pretty quickly, and I mean, Ahmedabad was 118,000 people or something. So if you can perform in those kind of atmospheres, 25,000 in New York should be a doddle.
Do you all think, and Phil, maybe you go first on this. Look, it's a different format, but there's still the same coach and the same captain. So how much does what happened in the 50-over World Cup, do you think, still play a part psychologically for the leadership group in this England squad, even though we're talking a different format in which they are defending champions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been pretty much put to bed. But there will be some players there wanting to do a hell of a lot better than they did in the 50-over. That hurt England, that 50-over World Cup. You could see it in the boys and the way they talked about it afterwards and what have you. That was a very poor showing and a poor performance. He's managed to get another go, hasn't he, the coach, when people were perhaps thinking that might be the end of him. And so he'll be desperate with Joss as well to really have a good showing.
Yeah, and I think from my point of view, I come across Matthew Mott a lot because he was the coach of the Australian women's team, and he's used to winning, and he's used to winning World Cups and with a really dominant side. And so I think they will definitely be hurting, but I think that this group are going to use it as motivation because they don't want another showing like that. They want to go out there and defend that title.
But it is odd, isn't it? I mean, it's a different format and a slightly different group of players, and you are defending champions, and yet there must be a hangover from the last international tournament you were in, even though it's not the same thing. It's weird, Georgia.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I just think these guys are playing so much cricket at the moment that you kind of go from one tournament to the next, to the next, to the next. So that hangover sort of almost becomes shorter because you just focus on the next thing. You're just so quickly focusing on the next thing and the next thing. And I think it's the media speculation around it, isn't it? I think that people have said that if Mott doesn't have a good tournament, then his job's seriously on the line. But these guys will be fully focused. They're playing a lot of cricket in good form. And like Sam said, like the IPL is almost more pressure than they're going to face going into this World Cup.
There's not much time for reflection, is there, Sam, really?
Never is. Yeah, it's fast moving cricket at the moment, and you can kind of get lost in it. The struggle is to refresh every single time. So some of these guys might be a little bit on the weary side and have to kind of that might be an element of this series against Pakistan as well. Managing the energy levels of some of the players. Some guys will be itching to get out there because they haven't played that much in the IPL, and other guys maybe can do with a bit of a rest. But it's very interesting. Look, as you said, I don't think they remember what they did 3 months ago, let alone the last World Cup. So it's good in a way that you get real clarity and you just got to move forward as quickly as possible.
They might not remember what they've done 3 months ago, but they will know they've been on the road for 3 months. And I know you as cricketers, you get used to a lot of time away from home. Even when you are meant to be playing at home, you are still away from home because you're in hotels at the other end of the country or whatever it may be. But actually, for all the positives of talking about the guys in the IPL in particular, this is a long old stint away from home when you think this was starting on June the 2nd with this tournament.
Yeah, there's again, it's finding ways to deal with it. The great thing is obviously where it's going to be. You're back home for a period of time with family, hopefully coming to watch in these next few games, and then when you go out to America and the West Indies, let's be honest, what a place to tour that is. If you can't enjoy that, then I mean, Tuffers, do you remember any of your tours out there? Or a bit hazy as well. I mean, what an opportunity to play a World Cup out there.
Absolutely. I mean, the guys are going to be really excited about that. As you say, if you keep on that treadmill, it does wear you down a little bit, but you're right. Let's have a little wander over to the States and the Caribbean. You always kind of get up for that.
I mean, the only time I've played for the Lord Taverners was in Antigua. Well, I mean, what are the chances of that? Hey, let's look at the bowling options here and start with Jofra Archer, who could play his first international cricket in more than a year here, Georgia, in the warm-up matches against Pakistan, and a fully fit Jofra Archer, which is what we're all hoping and expecting, completely changes the dynamic of an England attack.
Yeah, doesn't it? And the hope is that he can stay fit, and the management of him will be really interesting throughout this series. I'm sure he's itching to get back on the park, and I saw some footage of him this week bowling pretty hostile bounces at some poor second 11 cricketers. So I think he'll be chomping at the bit to get out there. Show, he's been missing for over a year now, isn't it, from international cricket? So it's his management that I'll be really interested in how much he's playing, how much he plays throughout this, and then whether they save him, whether he's underdone, all of that sort of stuff. They've got to manage and juggle and balance before
That's what they've got, haven't they, Phil? I mean, this is it. This is a real test of managing a player's workload.
Yeah, I mean, a very awkward and serious injury, with his elbow and what have you. But he's one of those kind of guys. I mean, he's not got a scrap of fat on him, has he? You know what I mean? And he just sort of like comes in and then delivers it with that click of the wrist. You know what I mean? So he's not like he needs to be out pounding the streets every day. But just gives that bowling attack that little bit of X factor for my money. Can bowl at the start and take wickets, can bowl in the middle, bit of the game as well, and take wickets and great death bowl. I think it's just given that England side that little bit of X factor that they could go on and start thinking about semi-finals and finals. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. It's very difficult just to slot straight back into international cricket, but I'm sure the guys are looking after him well.
Sam, what are the difficulties in facing him?
Sharp.
I actually spoke to Twandabe Yeye, who's a Kent, very talented young batsman at Kent today, and he played in that game this week at Beckenham, and it was a really good wicket, but he said it was absolutely rapid. It was well over 90 miles per hour, and he said it was a great challenge facing him. He didn't bowl many in the batter's half. He nicked a 17-year-old off, and told him where to go. So I think where Jofra, as Phil summed it up perfectly, he operates in a T20 game. He can operate in every phase of the game and be an X factor, a bit like Jasprit Bumrah for India. They're very few and far between those kind of bowlers, and if he's fit and firing, he definitely does completely change the outlook of that team. And he can get the ball to reverse swing at the end. He nails his Yorkers and cool man under pressure. So that's the element of the bowling attack. Like you said, I think really does change the side.
But also changes the mentality of the batter as well.
Yeah, of course, pace. It then allows Mark Wood to be a real enforcer as well, that extra pace to be through the middle, which is a phase that he actually prefers to bowl through. You want Mark Wood and Adil Rashid in those middle overs looking to take wickets and being really aggressive. And then it allows Reece Topley and the other options. Sam Curran becomes a bit of a luxury then as a fourth bowler, which I think suits the whole side. The best bowling attacks in T20 cricket around the world, it doesn't matter what T20 tournament it is, the best bowling attacks win you tournaments. The batters keep you in the game and decide the margins, but the tournaments are decided by the bowlers. So 6 bowling options in the West Indies is going to be crucial.
So Phil, if you just going back to your earlier point then, if you've got Jofra and Mark Wood and Adil Rashid, and then the left arm option of Curran or Reece Topley, why are you worried about the bowling attack?
Well, because I don't know. I just feel that England.
Phil, relax.
No, I know.
Control.
I just feel that I feel that there are. Oh, I've just put the washing machine on. Hold on, wait a minute.
What?
I've just shut the door. Sorry. No, I've just closed the door with my knee. Sorry, and it sparked into life.
Have you got a load on ready to go as soon as the show is finished?
That's
it's very well organised of you, Phil. But go on.
No problem. Listen, and I just feel, even though there's lots of experience there, the likes of, as you say, well, all of the guys have got bags of experience. I just feel when I've seen England sometimes lose T20 games, especially at the death, I feel that England sometimes can get a little bit sort of, they don't bowl quite as cute or as quite as sort of classy as some bowlers. I mean, Sam mentioned Jasprit Bumrah and the likes of these kind of guys, Cummins and these fellas, and you think to yourself, well, I just see them, they can get tagged, some of them bowlers. That's what I'm trying to say. Do you agree, Sam?
Well, some of them are my teammates,
What I'm just saying is that they're not quite as cute. Yeah, not quite as cute as some of the other big guys. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. I see that people will be they'll be scared of that England batting lineup, but they won't be quite as scared as the England bowling lineup. That's all I'm saying.
George,
and another element. Oh, sorry.
No, it's
well, Josh Buttler didn't keep wicket in the IPL for Rajasthan. Sanju Samson did. So that'd be another thing. Is at the point you made earlier, will he actually be at mid-off or mid-on talking to the bowlers and actually add another dimension to the bowling attack of trying to be a bit more cute and have that those constant conversations? That might be an element to watch out for.
And maybe, George, is that something that they can then try? I mean, we talk about warm-up matches and what you're trying, and that might be one of the exact things that they try to see what works best for Joss and his captaincy and his attack and other wicket keepers.
Well, yeah, exactly that. I mean, I'm looking at the bowling attack and I'm thinking, actually, I'm quite fearful of that attack. I wouldn't like to face it. But they've got lots of different bowlers who can bowl in lots of different phases of the game, and I think that's what they've got to work out. And like you said, in those conditions, who are the best players to bowl in the best situations, who's in form, who's fit. I think there's been question marks over obviously Mark Wood, Jofra Archer and Reece Topley's fitness. So you want all three of them fit and firing, but again it's a management of that and then working out what the best phases of play is for each individual bowler.
So if we're talking about what we're learning from these series ahead of World Cups for both the men's and the women's, England's women beat Pakistan 3-0 in their series. The final match was yesterday. Their World Cup is in Bangladesh in October. What did you learn from these three matches, Georgia?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. The first one didn't start off too well when they were 11 for 4 at Edgbaston at the start of the series. So, look, I think what it showed actually was some depth coming through for England, which is really pleasing. Like I said, they were 11 for 4, but still managed to get 160 in that first game, albeit with experience of Amy Jones and Heather Knight. But the person who's impressed me most really is Danny Gibson. She's a young all-rounder. Nat Sciver-Brunt obviously not bowling in this series because of her medical procedure. It's given her the opportunity to come in and fill some pretty big overs, to be honest with you. And I think in Bangladesh, we obviously expect spin to play a large part. England have used 3 spinners in each of the T20 series in Dean, Eccleston and Glenn. So you're expecting them to bowl 12 of the overs. And then I guess it's the makeup of the others. Nat Sciver-Brunt's always going to play, whether she bowls or not. You'd expect her to in those conditions. And then it gives that luxury of, do they play another spinner? They included Lindsay Smith in their squad, although she didn't play in the series. Or do you play a Danny Gibson who gives it a fair whack as well at the end? So they're well placed. I think, they're wanting to play this aggressive way. It's probably not nailed on. And I think in Bangladesh, we're expecting the pitches to turn. They're going to be slow and they're going to come up against slow spin from other teams. So I think it's working out what that aggressive approach looks like in those conditions for them, especially at the top of the order. I think they probably haven't quite nailed that. But I mean, in terms of their bowling and their spin options, I think that they've done pretty well against Pakistan. Although they would have been expected to win anyway.
Yeah, Georgia, is this England side? I mean, I've seen them sort of prone to a collapse, if you know what I mean. Is that starting to creep in a little bit, or is this because of this new sort of like, we've got to go harder and they're just coming to terms with it? And then also, it's going to be in Bangladesh, the women's cricket, the World Cup. I think we're not the best players of spin, are we?
We haven't been the best players of spin, no, and there were definitely question marks of that coming into this series, and Pakistan are known to bowl a lot of overs of spin and a lot of slow spin as well. So still question marks over that, in my opinion. And I think, look, they talk about taking the game on. They talk about this aggressive approach, especially since John Lewis has come in, and they're living by it and dying by it, really. So they'll get themselves into positions where they're 11 for 4, but it's being able to get themselves out of it and obviously trying to minimise that as much as they can. I think Danny Wyatt at the top of the order has got a lot of experience, but they've just put Maya Boucher at the top, and Alice Capsey. She's still so young. She's a name we speak about a lot, but you forget that she's actually quite inexperienced and young and hasn't played a lot of cricket this season. So there are still some question marks. I think the way that they play, we're going to expect that it's not going to come off all of the time. And I think that they're sort of coming to terms with that as well and learning how to deal with that, and still going out there and playing in this aggressive approach. And I think it's just about finding a little bit of consistency now.
And maybe not finding a bit of consistency. Maybe there's an element of not going gung ho all the time. There's a stat in the rounds that 26% of Maya Boucher's dismissals have been run outs, which is double the T20 average for the team, which just implies a sort of, hit it, run. Let's try. Doesn't it really? Whereas it's just sort of calm a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I think you watch some of those run outs and you think, what are you doing? There's not a run there. So you want them to feel settled. You want them to feel like they're going to have a good run in whatever position they're in. But at the same time, it's elite sport, and the depth that we're getting in this country means that there's always going to be people on your shoulder who want to take your spot. I mean, Maya Boucher came in the series before against New Zealand, and she took the place of Sophia Dunkley. Now she's gone back to regional cricket and scored a shed load of runs, and now he's banging the door down and saying, I want my spot back. So there's also that weird psychology, and these girls are just having to learn to deal with it. you can try and give them that security of saying, look, I'm going to give you a run in the side, go out and do your thing. But you're always looking over your shoulder at who's behind you and who's hunting you down. So it's that balance, trying to get the consistency, but also playing it in the way that the team want to.
You talk about psychology. Catherine Sciver-Brunt was on with me on 5 Live yesterday, and no, I don't mean this with her, but she said to me, Sam, that actually in games like this, when it's not a World Cup, in some ways there's nothing wrong with being 11 for 4. She doesn't mind that, because it then gives you a good chance to see how the team reacts to that adversity.
Absolutely. It was just a shame that it's probably someone who everyone knows how calm, and collected she is in Heather Knight, just to patch it all together. And I agree. These are the kind of times where you want to be put under pressure, because obviously if it's a semi-final or a final in a World Cup, then the people have been there, and that's where confidence comes from. It's from evidence of doing it over and over again. So, I'm with Catherine. I wouldn't disagree. She scares me.
But then you can't be, you're not going to want to be 11 for 4 in every game, are you? I mean, there are elements of, for example, England's average opening partnership since the 2023 World Cup is just under 21. Australia's is just under 44. Now that's a big difference, Phil.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to get off to a good start, and that's why the Aussies are miles ahead of everyone at the moment. It's as simple as that. You've got to be careful. Yeah, you never really want to be 11 for 4. No. But because it is just then round the corner, you lose another couple quickly and you're done for. Yeah, England. I think the girls have got something just to work on with that batting lineup. They're just seeming a little bit fragile. I've watched the games actually, and they just, thankfully they had a Danny Wyatt got 80 odd, didn't they? They had a Heather Knight just to do that, but they just seemed a little sort of. Beforehand, you used to seeing this England batting lineup just ploughing on, didn't you? Ploughing on, getting runs, and everyone contributing and everything. But there were just a lots of sort of single figure scores I saw popping up.
Alongside England at this tournament will be Scotland, who reached the World Cup for the first time by reaching the final of the qualifying tournament in Abu Dhabi. One of their bowlers is Hannah Rainey. Hannah Rainey joins us now. Congratulations, Hannah.
Thank you very much.
How have the celebrations been?
Yeah, really good. It was a bit weird actually, because we realised we qualified after the semi-final, so kind of the big celebration was then, and then we still had the final to play, so couldn't be too hard on the celebrations. But yeah, had a great time.
Did that take some of the nerves out of the final then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were all up, still buzzing from the win, and we knew that in many ways the final didn't matter too much in terms of going to the World Cup. And actually we thought that if we did happen to have a bad day, we knew that we might end up in a slightly better group.
We often talk about sort of the weight of history in sport and what's happened before. Did it weigh on you in this tournament that Scotland had fallen short a few times?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's quite a few of us at the qualifiers who have had that the disappointment before. I think that was my 4th qualifiers with the team, and that the belief has always been there that we could do it. And I think it's pretty tough when you fall short, and we've done that a few times now, and it's pretty heartbreaking. So I think a lot of us just felt a massive sense of relief.
It's different for you now because you've gone full time, and in the past you've been combining cricket with your job as a vet.
Yeah, definitely easier now. I made a tough decision to quit my job in the end of winter last year, and kind of gone full time with the cricket. But definitely this has made it worth it.
So how difficult was that, Hannah? How much did you deliberate and ah? Because that's a big decision, isn't it? To switch from the career that you've been working for as a vet to then turn to cricket.
Yeah, it was definitely a really tough decision, but it was also an easy one in my head. I knew that I would regret it if I didn't give cricket an opportunity. And so, yeah, it was tough in terms of logistics, of moving cities, of moving my, and quitting my job. But yeah, definitely caused a bit of stress at the time, but grateful now.
So, I mean, it has led to a complete not a complete change of lifestyle. Okay, obviously, it's very different being a cricketer to being a vet. I would imagine, having been neither as a professional. But I mean, you've had to completely change your life as well, then moving and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was living up in rural Cumbria before, and I've just moved down to Manchester. So definitely a bit of change of scenery for sure. But and I guess I've got a lot more time now, so it's great in terms of cricket. I have way more time to recover and get all the things I need to do in, so that when I'm turning up to cricket, I'm actually ready for it, not tired from the night on call before. So yeah, it's definitely been easier since we've moved down here.
Tough as here, and also financially. I mean, you know, when I used to take my cats to the vets, it used to cost me a fortune, you know what I mean? But, you know, financially, you can see that sort of, did that come into your thinking about it as well?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's a much more stable job being in full-time work as a vet. And yeah, you earn a comfortable living. It's definitely not as much as people think. But I think, yeah, I kind of knew that I could take the chance now. I don't really have any commitments, and I knew that if I didn't do it now, I'd probably look back and regret it. So yeah, I took a bit of a punt. It was a very stressful couple of months as I sort of went to hand in my notice at work. I was really feeling torn about it, but I think all my bosses understood because they knew how much cricket meant to me, and yeah, they were really happy for me that I'd got given an opportunity to do that.
And also, you can always go back to that, can't you? Or do you have to sort of like retrain or whatever?
No,
I forget where their ears are or something.
No, I'm definitely keeping my options open. I'm still kind of doing a little bit of work on the side, locuming now and again when I've got a bit of time off. So I'll be able to go back to it when I'm ready and when I'm done with cricket.
When you you look ahead to this World Cup then, and in a group with England, I mean that is obviously the biggest game, but you can't get distracted just by that.
No, absolutely. I think it's a big game, and it's always really exciting to have a rivalry like that come on. I remember in 2018 watching Scotland men beat England in Scotland. And I think
I've just forgotten about that.
Yeah, I remember we were actually driving back from Hampshire, having played them in the county stuff, and we all stopped at the service station to watch the final couple of overs, and it was a real tense game. So hopefully we can recreate some history then as well for the women. But I don't think we've played England probably since 2001, so none of the girls in our team will have ever come up against a team like that. So I think it's just it's going to be exciting. I think we have a lot of belief in the team at the minute and a lot of skills. So hopefully it'll be a good game.
Sam?
Yeah, and I mean, how much experience have you had from playing in the subcontinent? Obviously, it's going to take a bit of adaptation. Are you excited for that challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we haven't played in conditions like that before, so it will be tough. But I think it's really exciting that we're getting an opportunity like this. I think if you'd offered it to us, you know, we would have taken it with both hands, whether it was on a flat one or in Australia or on a turning pitch in Bangladesh. So yeah, I think it'll be an amazing experience either way.
That England-Scotland game is the final group game, isn't it? Actually, so you can't let it distract just looking at it, because you got Bangladesh and West Indies and South Africa all before that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll just be taking each game as it comes and just enjoying the experience at the same time.
Are you setting targets for yourself as an individual? Have you set targets as a team?
Not yet. I think we're still sort of in the planning process. But I think, you know, we're not looking to go there and fill the spaces for the teams. We're looking there to go there and compete. So we'll be doing everything we can. And we've played Bangladesh quite a bit before. I think that'll be an amazing game. You know, they're at home for them. It'll be a loud one. They've always had good support wherever we're playing in the world. So I think them being at home will be an amazing experience.
Hi, Hannah. It's Georgia here. What have you and the Scotland girls got between now and then to prepare yourself going into that tournament?
At the moment, we've got a tri-series against the Netherlands and Thailand in August, but I think there's probably more in the works at the minute. I I think obviously there's a bit more funding coming through for us qualifying for the World Cup. Scotland will be able to arrange a few more fixtures in the meantime. So not quite sure what that looks like yet, but looking forward to it.
Hannah, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hannah Rainey, part of the Scotland team who will be at the Women's T20 World Cup in Bangladesh in the autumn. We began Five Live Cricket tonight, briefly mentioning the IPL, but let's properly delve into it. We've reached the knockout stages. Kolkata Knight Riders play Sunrisers Hyderabad tomorrow. The winners go into the final. The losers will take on Rajasthan Royals and Royal Challengers Bangalore on Wednesday. Got ball-by-ball coverage of all 4 matches across BBC Sounds, Sports Extra, or the BBC Sport website. Nikesh Regani has been part of Test Match Specials IPL coverage and is with us now. As we were saying earlier, we've got here in the end, Nikesh.
Good evening, chappers. Yeah, it feels like about, 9 months ago the IPL started. It just goes on and on and on. It gets longer every year. It starts off all exciting, gets a little bit drab usually in the middle, although this year with all the records being scored, all the run scoring that we've seen, 200 plus scores left, right and centre, it's been pretty exciting throughout. And yeah, we're nearly there.
Although that has caused a lot of debate, hasn't it? The number of massive scores that there have been, 41 scores of over 200. The impact player substitution has had
Yep.
It's probably not had as much debate in India, has it? Like amongst the fans, because they just get to see more runs. But I know some of the Indian players have talked about it, and it's certainly been discussed over here because it's reduced the role of the all-rounder, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Indian fans are quite split on it, actually. Initially, when it came in, they were just happy to see the extra batter being brought into sides and that little bit of extra risk being taken by the top order as a result from having that cushion of a longer batting lineup. But you're right, Rohit Sharma, the India captain, has spoken about it. And you see Indian all-rounders in this season's IPL who'd normally bat at number 7, say, and bowl 2 or 3 overs just to, come in and do a little job for their captain. The likes of Shivam Dube, who's part of India's World Cup squad, hasn't bowled at all, really, in this season's IPL for the Chennai Super Kings. And there's been 1 or 2 others as well. It has really taken that role out of it. So there is a massive debate going on in India at the moment. Will the impact player rule still be enforced next season? Certainly from a neutral's point of view, look, if you go and watch T20 cricket, you want to watch the big runs being scored, you're in the right place, and the impact player rule has certainly helped with that. You look at a side like the Sunrisers Hyderabad, like you mentioned, finished second in the table eventually. They've breached 260 plus 4 times this season. That's only ever been done once before in the history of the IPL. They've done it 4 times themselves this season. And even in their final match of the group stages, they chased down over 200 to win that too.
I don't know if I'm a bit of an old fart, Sam, but I got a bit bored. Well, maybe in fact I do know that I am.
Words out of my mouth.
Yeah, but I got a bit.
Beautifully.
I know, yeah. I got a bit bored by it after a while. Like the first couple of times with Sunrise, I was like, "Blimey, that's impressive." But then I'm thinking, well, I've seen this now.
Yeah, it's never great when the competition between bat and ball is just so one-sided. And going back to the impact sub, I'm going to really sit on the fence. I think it is a terrible rule.
Yeah.
I think it's absolute garbage, if I'm honest, because I think it benefits teams that have really mucked up their auction. And the challenge for any captain and any coach in any T20 team is to get that perfect balance. How can they get 6 bowling options of brilliant quality and have also a long enough batting lineup that you can go hard and have enough of a cushion as well? And that is just completely undermined probably most strategy and team building, really, in my opinion.
But also from a fan's point of view, if Tuffers' team were batting, were in the field first, and he'd be in the 11 and he'd be bowling.
Tuffers and fielding go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, but they need him for the bowling. But then they'd sub him out for the batting. But I still want a game where Tuffers has to come in at number 11 with five needed to win off the last over. That's part. It's part of the joy of it. Yeah, it's part of the joy of it, Phil.
I agree. I agree with you, chappers. I agree with you. And also, it's just interesting sort of talking about the all-rounders. I mean, let's look back. Probably some of the biggest draws and the best and the greatest cricketers in the world have been all-rounders, because you do see that ability to bat and bowl, and those are the guys, Flintoff, both of them, Imran Khan, all these guys. You know what I mean? You don't want to see the end of the all-rounder in my book. And as you say, I used to love coming in and knocking them off just at the end.
Well, exactly. But Georgia, that is the big thing. That would be terrible for. I know, and actually, we ought to point out. I can never remember what the Big Bash rules are because they seem to change a lot. But there aren't other tournaments that are doing the impact. It is just the IPL. But we don't want to lose the joy of the all rounder.
No, I completely agree with everything that you've said. I don't like it either. I think, from the other point of view, you could have a batter who doesn't bat at all, comes in and opens the batting and snicks off first ball, and then that's their evening done. And I think it takes away from you balancing your side and having to pick your best 11 for the conditions. It's something that it doesn't really sit right with me either.
Nikesh, I always think in franchise tournaments, it's how you time your run. And even though Kolkata have finished top, RCB have timed their run to the playoffs perfectly.
You could say that. I mean, losing 7 out of their first 8 games, I don't think anything was calculated about that. But look, they've won 6 in a row. They've done it eventually. Virat Kohli has been a massive part of that, opening the batting for RCB. They've won their last 6 games. He scored 708 runs at a strike rate of 155. There was a lot of debate about Virat Kohli, the T20 player. Is he good enough to play T20 at the top level? Is he got enough intent? Does he score the volume of runs? Does he score quickly enough? I think he's answered all those questions. And look, it's the greatest comeback in the history of the IPL group stages. No side has ever come back after winning just 1 from their first 8 games and then making it into the playoffs. So you could say there's a little bit of destiny about this. RCB have never won the IPL, of course, but the women's franchise did win the Women's Premier League in the second ever season of that competition. So maybe the stars are aligning. I think a key for them is not just Kohli's batting, which has been consistent all the way through. Their bowling, which has been a massive issue for so many years. It doesn't matter whether they've picked people like Dale Steyn, Mitchell Starc, Anil Kumble over the years. It just never has clicked. And finally, in these last 6 matches or so, it has started to click. Yash Dayal, who's been signed from the Gujarat Titans, has come in. He's taken 15 wickets. He defended the runs in the last over in that chase in their last game on Saturday, that do-or-die game against Chennai Super Kings. Did it brilliantly well. And look, it seems as though the stars are aligned. It was all about MS Dhoni and is this his last season? I know we've been talking about that for quite some time as well. And are the Chennai Super Kings going to win another title? That's not going to happen, but Virat Kohli is still there. And for the majority of Indian cricket supporters, doesn't matter which IPL franchise they support, that is something they're very, very pleased with. So, RCB, certainly with all the momentum, and that is key going into these playoffs.
But you would say, Sam, as a former Kolkata Knight Rider, that they are the team to beat. They're also the team to beat because they've finished clear at the top of the table. I mean, they've only lost 3 in this year's IPL.
Yeah, played some brilliant cricket, as have the Rajasthan Royals. And as you mentioned, RCB have timed it to perfection. I was a little gutted with my Chennai Super Kings hat on. I thought Dhoni was going to wind back the years and get the job done there. But Kolkata played some brilliant cricket. I think Phil Salt, as we mentioned earlier, will be a huge miss for them. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's just an intent machine. He goes out from ball 1 and tries to clobber it everywhere. And just, he's really set the tone beautifully. So how they kind of change their batting lineup around, who's going to step up and really take that mantle on.
Who's going to win it, Nikesh, finally?
Oh, God, you're putting me on the spot here. Look, I think Rajasthan will miss Josh Butler big time. I think we're right that Phil Salt is going to be massively missed by KKR. I think that's going to make those 2 sides in particular suffer. I reckon it's going to be an RCB versus Sunrisers final. RCB to do it for Virat Kohli. There you go.